Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and hi if you're new here, I'm Jade, and today we're going to do a mid-year book tag. So I've been watching quite a few of these. A lot of them have appeared on YouTube over the past couple of weeks. It is now pretty much the last day of June. I don't want to wish the year away. So it's basically the last day of June, so I figured it was a great time to do a sort of mid-year book video, and I have seen some where people are answering like questions about books and books they've read this year, and I think for me they've been like my favorite rather than like an overview of every single book. So I figured I should do one of those. I'm actually off to a party this afternoon and I just had like a spare hour or so I thought, you know what, let's film it. So what I have done is I have found a random list on the internet of book questions, which I'm going to do for this book tag mid-year thing, and we will see what I come up with. I'm not going to go and dig out all the books or I'll be here forever filming, and I only do have an hour or so before I need to leave, but I just figured it'd be really fun to do. So I will display like a photo of each cover of any books that I mentioned, just in case you recognize it by cover rather than name. Yeah, and we will see what I answer. So yeah, I'm excited to do this one. Okay, so the first question on this list that I found is best book you've read so far this year. Okay, I actually can answer this really, really easily, and I'm going to say Shielded Sparrows. So Shielded Sparrows was just such a great read for me so far this year, because I think it's just got like such a different plot line to a lot of fantasies that I've read, at least recently. So it kind of just stands out, and that's why I think it deserves my best book. I have rated several 5 stars, so it's not like, you know, I technically rated it higher, although I did say in my reading vlog of it that if I did rate 6 stars, that would be it. So yeah, Shielded Sparrows was just such a special book for me. It follows the character of Odessa. She goes and ends up being put into this like arranged marriage with a prince from another province, and then she sort of has to navigate that whole thing whilst also acting as a spy for her father, which she wasn't expecting. So basically it was her sister that was supposed to be marrying this guy, and it all changes, and yeah, that the plot goes on from there. I don't want to say too much. If you want a little bit more detail, watch my reading vlog on it, but yeah, that's just a summary in case you haven't heard of it. But if you are someone who loves your romancy fantasies, please go and read A Shield of Sparrows. I think it's so good. I know a few people did say they found it a bit slow, but for me, no. I loved the slow burn of the romance, and it was just perfection. Okay, the next one is best sequel you've read so far this year. Okay, so I feel a little less guilty now for not picking Onyx Storm as my best read of the year, because I did love that, and I think because I was so hyped up and ready for it to come out, I adored reading it, but it definitely fits better here with the best sequel, because I expected that I was going to love it, you know, and I genuinely did. So for me, yes, I'm going to just rate it the best sequel that I've read this year. Obviously, being a sequel, I can't really talk about it in case people haven't read it and still want to read the Empyrean series. I don't want to spoil anything, but for me, it just had the perfect amount of action and plot, and there were some really funny moments actually in it. There are dragons in it, you know, that's not a spoiler, and they were just written to perfection in this book. Let's just say that it was so great. So yeah, Onyx Storm takes my best sequel. Okay, the next one is new favorite author. It says either a debut or new to you. This one's really hard actually, because there is a lot of new authors, especially new to me at least. I know I've read some as a debut, but I don't know definitely which ones are debuts for like all of the things I've read this year. But new to me, there's a lot, because I read my first Ali Hazelwood, I read my first Abby Jimenez, and my first Emily Henry. So those 3 are definitely big contenders. And then obviously I loved A Shield of Sparrows, so that was my first by Devney Perry. I haven't read any of their other books. Yeah, so it's hard to say, because a lot of them at the moment I've only read 1 or 2 books by them if they're new to me. So it's a little bit challenging to like pick a favorite. But you know what? I'm going to go for Emily Henry, because I have read one of hers, which was her new one from this year, Great Big Beautiful World, I think it's called. That one, and I really, really enjoyed that. It definitely has like Seven Husband of Everything Hugo vibes, and I just thought it was written really well. I really liked her writing, and I'm actually partway through one of her books, The People We Meet on Vacation. So yeah, I'm reading The People We Meet on Vacation at the moment, because that's my book club's pick for June. So I'm just finishing that off, because we're not meeting till mid-July, just because of how busy everyone's been. So yeah, that I am reading, and I'm loving it so far. So I'm going to go with her just because I feel like I'm going to love this one too. And then I've read two books by her this year that I've loved. Whereas Ali Hazelwood, I have still only read one. Abby Jimenez, I have read two, and I loved Part of Your World. But her newer one, even though I did really, really enjoy it, I just feel like was lacking a little bit. And so therefore I feel like Emily Henry just deserves like to get my favourite new author title. But honestly, there's so many people I could pick from. It's really difficult. I'm just saying Emily Henry, okay? Favorite reread? Okay, well, I've only reread two books this year that I can think of, which was Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, which was ready for Onyx Storm. So I'm just going to pick Fourth Wing because, yeah, it's the first one in the series and obviously the one that I read longest ago. So it was more of a refresher for me, and it was just really fun to see like what things I'm realizing and what Easter eggs I'm realizing that link further into the series as you go along. So obviously there was a lot of them in Fourth Wing that I then linked to Iron Flame and then to Onyx Storm. So that's why I'm going to pick Fourth Wing. And if you don't know about Fourth Wing, I feel like everyone's obviously spoken about this book so much, so I don't want to go completely into it, but it's just a fun fantasy with drama and dragons. It's a bit like a military school, but like for a kind of magic thing. Like, and you can become a dragon rider, or you can be a scribe, or you can be in the kind of like army. So yeah, that's just like a very brief thing. But I'm sure you probably all know about it and you've either read it or you just have no interest. So I'm going to move on. Okay, a book that made you laugh. Okay, I have an instant answer for this one. There's probably been more than one, but I recently finished Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, and I laughed so much at points of that book. It really leans into some stereotypes and some stereotypes to do with being anxious and I guess even like sort of like OCD, that kind of thing. It kind of just like lent itself into it, but the use of very much stereotypes and sort of like over exaggeration and hyperbole at times was really entertaining. I thought it was so well written, and yeah, I laughed out loud quite a few times reading that book. So that is definitely a book that made me laugh. It's great. As I did read this one this month, you will hear more about it once I post my wrap up. I was going to post my wrap up before this, but I kind of wanted to get this done, being it's the end of June now, so you would have covered the 6 months. So you will get my June wrap up, but that'll be the next video. Okay, and now it's saying a book that made you cry. I should have expected this to be the next question. Oh gosh, I feel like I've definitely like teared up and stuff in a few books this year, I feel like, but I want to say the one that stands out to me is Sunrise on the Reaping. You know, like any good old Hunger Games story, there is obviously a lot of drama and death and sad moments. So yeah, I definitely cried a little bit reading Sunrise on the Reaping. There were some really sad moments in it. So yeah, that's the one I'm going to pick. Obviously, I can't really tell you why I cried, or I'm going to give spoilers for the book, and I don't want to like have this like fun video take away if someone's like, no, I don't want to know that about a book. So if you want to know what made me cry, message me or something. But it is a great book if you love the original Hunger Games trilogy and you haven't read this one yet. Please go read it. I feel like Haymitch's story, I think this might be my favorite book of them all, honestly. I mean, I definitely prefer it to A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, to be honest. I mean, it's hard for me to compare to the original trilogy. It's been so long. Okay, the next one is biggest disappointment. And again, I have an instant answer. If you've watched quite a lot of my videos, you might be expecting me to say The Playground by Richard Powers, but no, that's not it. That was just a book that I didn't find that interesting, but I didn't have like high expectations because I knew nothing about it. But the book that is the biggest disappointment for me, and I've seen a lot of people answer actually Abby Jimenez's new book for this question, but I didn't find that overly disappointing, even though I didn't find it like as good as I would have hoped. But for me, the book that I've read this year that was the most disappointing was Holly Jackson's As Good as Dead. For those that don't know, that is the third part in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. So I was expecting like a good ending, I was excited to see the end of this trilogy and be like, yes, I really wanted to finish it. I loved the first book in the series. The second book, a little bit repetitive, but I still enjoyed it. I didn't rate it quite as high, but I still had a good time. And then this one, I just had such high hopes, especially knowing it was going to be the finale. But yes, what do I even say? I wasn't bored reading it, so I did give it a 3-star because it's still Holly Jackson's writing style, and I still, yeah, as I said, I wasn't bored, but I just hated what she did to the characters. So the main character, Pip, the way she wrote it, to me, it ruined her personality a little bit, and I just didn't like the plot, to be honest. That's the main thing. The plot just ruined it for me. Obviously, I can't say why again because it's a third part of a trilogy. I definitely don't want to ruin anything for anyone. So again, you can always ask me if you want to know about that. Message me on Instagram or something. But yeah, I that was definitely the biggest disappointment. I just didn't like the plot line. So obviously the opposite again, the biggest surprise. I'm assuming it has to be a good surprise, right? I suppose that it has to be if I've just done disappointment. This is actually a really hard one because I feel like because I have, dove into quite a lot of authors that I haven't read before this year that I knew were very popular, especially in the romance genre, like Abby Jimenez, Ali Hazelwood, etc. I feel like I was pleasantly surprised because I kind of wondered if, some of those things are like overhyped, but I don't feel they were like a true surprise. So I actually think I'm going to go for an arc that I was given, which was called The Dream Killer by Adam Cosco, because I was just so pleasantly surprised to find an arc that I just loved and was really unique. The Dream Killer by Adam Cosco is a kind of like thriller, almost a little bit sci-fi because it's about dreams, and it starts off with a guy that is accused of murder, and he finds this dead body in his house, and he's like, no, I didn't do it, like I don't know what's happened, like I did not kill that person, I did not put them there in my basement. And that's how it starts, and then it gets kind of like crazier and crazier as it goes on. I think it was split into 3 parts from memory. It was March I read it, so like the details might be a little bit wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was split into 3 parts, and it just got like weirder and weirder. And then there was some like kind of interactive parts, and it was just done so cleverly and just very differently to anything else I have read. So I was just like pleasantly surprised by that book because honestly, when an author approaches you and gives you their book, I don't necessarily expect it to be amazing, to be honest, especially if it's not an arc that, I've just been randomly given. Like if they've literally, the author's reached out to me on social media, considering I don't have like a ton of followers, I feel like, I don't have super high expectations. But this blew me away, and I definitely want to read some more Adam Cosco books. So yeah, The Dream Killer. If you like your sort of like thrillers with maybe a bit of a sci-fi edge, go for it. Okay, your first DNF of the year. I actually haven't DNF'd any books, so I don't have anything to answer for this, but I wish I had DNF'd The Playground by Richard Powers. I just didn't vibe with that book at all. I have a whole vlog on that if you want to know more, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And then the next one is the new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. I could go with The Night and the Moth because that's definitely one I'm really looking forward to, but I will say, actually, one of my book clubs has now picked that for next month. So I know I'm going to be reading that really soon. So I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out if I go for that one. You know what? I'm going to go for The Favourites by Lane Fargo. I think that's the author's name. It'll show on there. Because I am really excited to read that one, but if you have watched my recent TBR, you might see I didn't pick it, even though it would have worked. And it's not because I'm not really excited to read that, because I really am, but it's just it didn't vibe with the summer. It's about ice skating, and I just feel like I will vibe with it more later in the year as a result. Maybe I'll end up reading it sooner, I don't know. But I am really excited to read it because I've just heard such great things. So that's what I'm going to pick. Okay, the next one is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. This is really hard because this would have been easy because I would have gone for the second part of When the Moon Hatched. So yeah, the second book in the Moonfall series is what I would have gone for because I adored When the Moon Hatched and I was so excited for A Ballad of Fallen Dragons, but that has been delayed until next year. So I guess I can't really pick that now. Man, I don't even know a lot of books that are coming out. I have Brimstone on pre-order, so I guess I go with Brimstone. If you know my videos, you might know I have a little bit of a mixed view on Quicksilver because I loved reading it, but I just noticed so many plot holes, and then I got obsessed with it, and I started analysing it, and there's a whole video where I talk about them all, because I love the book so much, but the plot holes were bothering me so badly. But I am really looking forward to Brimstone because, as I said, I did really enjoy reading Quicksilver, and I love the story. I mean, it definitely pulls a lot from other books, but I genuinely, hand on heart, do love the story. So I am looking forward to Brimstone. So I think I just have to pick Brimstone. Okay, what books are you prioritizing to read by the end of the year? That's a hard one because there's so many that I want to read on my TBR, and I know that I can't read them all. So yeah, I guess we could say the rest of the Throne of Glass series. So I have read the first 4 books so far, so I'm definitely prioritizing finishing them by the end of the year. I'd like to break it up a bit because as much as I'd love to just binge a series, I read so many different genres, and then obviously like reading arcs with people and things. So I tend to split it up and just like drag it out a little bit, because also I get really sad, when a series ends. Like I want to know what happens, but I also get sad when it ends. So yeah, definitely Throne of Glass. I'm also going to put out there that I really want to read Alan Rickman's autobiography. I've had that a couple of years now, and I really wanted to read it last year. And it often vibes with me around fall time, I suppose, because I associate him with Harry Potter. I don't know. And I just didn't last year, and I really, really want to read that this year because I do like to break up my fiction sometimes. I've read Jojo's autobiography this year, but I think that's the only non-fiction I've read. So I would really like to really try and read that this year too. And honestly, there's just loads of others, but I could go on forever about everything I really hope to read this year, but I'm never going to be able to do it all. Okay, talk about a new release from this year that you've read and your thoughts on it, good and bad. You know what? I'm going to go for the Abby Jimenez Say You'll Remember Me, her new one, because as I said, a lot of people picked it for their disappointment, and I didn't find it disappointing. I just didn't find it as good as Part of Your World. However, I obviously haven't read any of her other books. Actually, that's another book I definitely want to read, as I want to finish that sort of trilogy. So I want to read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez and Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So yeah, add them to the last question. But yeah, with Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, I enjoyed it. I thought it was written well, but it definitely was very cheesy. But it's about a hot veterinarian, and like, what more could you want in a man? I mean, he can heal your pets, and he's good looking at the same time. I mean, I suppose you need to be an animal lover like me if that's really your thing. But yeah, I mean, does it for me. However, my hardest thing getting behind the book was just the fact that someone agreed to go on a date with someone when they knew they were moving across the country the next morning. I don't know, that bit just annoyed me because I was like, this girl's a bit of a time waster pretty much, and it made me just have a slight negative view of her at the beginning, and I feel like that kind of tarred the book a little bit for me, a little bit. But I did really love the whole theme of memories that runs through the book. I love that they explored some family dynamics in there, and there was more than just purely the romance. So I did really enjoy it, but it was a little bit of back and forth, like, oh no, this isn't going to work because we live far away, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, and it was a little bit repetitive. So I can see why some people just didn't like it, but I still really enjoyed it. So that's the one I'm just going to talk about because I feel like it got a lot of mixed reviews, and my personal review is that it's not Abby Jimenez's best, but it's still a cute read. Okay, which genre have you been loving? Well, I tend to mainly read fantasy, romance, and thrillers as a general rule, so I guess you can say all of them, but honestly, I'm just going to say romance because I feel like I've inserted a lot more just pure romance back in this year. I feel like last year I went off of that a little bit. I used to read so much pure romance, all the time. But I feel like I definitely started getting into the romancy last year and was really going for that sort of fantasy stuff. And I'm still reading a lot of that, but I feel like I'm bringing back some pure romance a little bit more. So we'll just say romance is the genre I've been loving because it's coming back in more. Your new favorite character? I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of any books that I've read this year where I'm just like, oh, that character's the best. I've enjoyed a lot of characters and I've liked a lot of characters, but I can't think of anything stand out. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go for Signa from Belladonna, from that trilogy. I've read the first and the second now. I just really like her as a character. I think with her powers and the time and the era that she's in and how difficult that makes her life and all the difficult decisions she has to make and the sort of hardship she's been through, I don't know, I just really like her as a character. I think she's a very strong woman, but you get to see that vulnerability sometimes, especially because she's had a tough upbringing. And yeah, I don't want to obviously give away the story or anything. But I'm just gonna go with Signa because I have really enjoyed them and I just do like her as a character. It's also different than trying to pick a book boyfriend. My favorite book boyfriends are Zayden and Rhysand, okay? So yeah. I don't have a new favourite one of them this year. What was the most beautiful book cover or design? You know what? Our Infinite Fates was what I picked for beautiful cover for my TBR on one of my TBR videos, and I will stick by that. I think it's a beautiful cover. It's obviously nothing like crazy in terms of like the picture or anything, but it's just beautiful with the gold sprayed edges and the gold running through it. I just think it's really pretty. I could also maybe go for the spell shop because I think that's cute with the sort of purple sprayed edges and then the cute little picture of the cottage. I don't know, it's like warm and homely and I think it's pretty. So yeah, like those two. I'm just gonna say they both are beautiful. I mean, I haven't read many where I think they're super ugly, you know? I don't know. A book that embodies the vibe of your reading, yeah. Oh, I don't know. This might seem boring because I just picked Signa but as my character, but I'm going to go with Belladonna as the book that suits my vibe for the year. And you know why? Because it honestly encompasses so many different genres. It has that fantasy element, it has a bit of romance in it. It's also a little bit of a thriller mystery, I would say, more probably mystery than thriller, but it has that kind of vibe too. And it also touches with like the Regency era. And I love books sort of set then. Although I don't think I've really read many this year, I have read some historical fiction, so like things in the past. So I feel like Belladonna just encompasses, yeah, my reading vibe of the year because it encompasses a little bit of everything that I tend to read. And yeah, I just love that book as well. I did give it 5 stars, so I feel like that deserves the title of it encompasses my thing. Okay, and this is the last one that is on this list. It says, do you feel your reading tastes have changed or shifted at all this year? I'm going to say no, not really, because I've always read such a mix of books. So I don't really know if there's too far for it to shift. I feel like if it was to truly shift, it'd be like, oh, I just go and read like nonfiction and self-help books or something like that. Purely rather than like mix up and like mainly read fiction, because I would say that's the difference. I mainly read fiction, but I read a little bit of everything. So yeah, I'd say not really. Like as I said, a bit more pure romance back in it now. So I guess you could say that for if it's changed this year. But I think honestly that's it. Like I'd say overall no, because I always read, yeah, a bit of everything and mainly romance, fantasy, and thrillers. Okay, that is all the questions. So I hope you've enjoyed just hearing a little bit about, different books from my year from these sort of prompt tag questions. And if you've done any of your own videos like this, please tag me in them. I love watching them. So yeah, send them to me because yeah, I just find this kind of thing really fun. I love to hear, what books brought out emotional responses in people and things like that. So yeah, definitely let me know. And yeah, I will see you again for my wrap up next time, actually. And that'll be really soon. But yeah, bye.